Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
From time to time, I see people posting about wanting to do supernatural magical feats, and oftentimes there is disappointment from such querents when they come to the inevitable conclusion that things of that nature are seemingly impossible. I am here just to shed some light on that and the issues surrounding it. I won't share my initiatory lineage and may stick around to answer worthy questions, I thought. As a task of my light work, I do this to help a potential seeker on with their journey. Nothing more. To start at the beginning, once upon a time, this kind of magic was common and actually incredibly straightforward. Humanity, as we understand it, has gone through numerous cataclysmic events since its inception, and inevitably due to the cyclical nature of the biorhythms of natural bodies. For example, the celestial objects, planets, suns, moons, etc. We are at a spiritual low point and a materialist, a better description is found in the term Maya, high point. When the opposite was the case, as was with the beginning of mankind, the lived experience on this earth was very different. It is very hard to describe how life was then, because our perception of space-time and our interactions through consciousness were incredibly far removed from what we have now. Back then, if you so willed it, you could live a day in an hour, a year in a minute. To get back to the point, after each cataclysm, a sense of common understanding has to be reformed, and this is based on what is left and who is left. Oftentimes, especially during the earlier eras, post-cataclysm is often attached to mass exodus. With that exodus knowledge, skill and values are lost each time. That same common understanding I mentioned that civilization is built from takes root at the lowest common denominator, which naturally falls in degree after each cataclysm. What does that have to do with magical manifestation? I'll take a page out of Jung's work to try to elucidate. For lack of a better term, collective unconscious, or the psychic egregore we all share, weakens each time that same lowest common denominator falls in degree, meaning higher aspects of existence are no longer possible to be physically attained by earthbound mortals. A good example documented in our theology of this is the destruction of the Tower of Babylon. The confusion of the languages was not a separation that we think of like English and Chinese, but the way individuals think and make sense of each other's expressions. It made it harder for us to be able to relate to one another, once again lowering that same common denominator. To go back to that collective unconscious egregore, the same way we are physical bodies possessing a soul, so too are stellar bodies. The main issue, however, to do with the particular stellar body we live on, is that it has long since been judged to be unworthy, and has had its divine link severed long ago. If you are familiar with the concept of the silver cord people experience with out-of-body experiences, it is similar to that. And because of that, it is the planetary equivalent of what are better called organic portals or conduits. But often we use the term NPC when talking about other people. So as the planet's connection to the divine higher realms of reality has gotten weaker, the ability of physical manifestation of supernatural phenomena has too gotten weaker. This has been predicted and prophesied for millennia. To simplify, just call the current age the Kali Yuga. This is more than appropriate. We are at the beginning of said Yuga, and it will go on longer than any of us will live. I did not purely come to doom and gloom. However, supernatural feats are still very possible. However, because there is no longer common ground in which it can manifest. Your individual link to divinity must be restored before access to the higher planes of existence can be granted. This is the magnum opus, or great work often spoken of in alchemical literature. Create the philosopher's stone, work with the stone until the threshold becomes clear, then walk toward it. All will become clear through the journey.
So with an A-stone we can unlock magic stored from the ages of previous exodus. What are the archives to explore first in your opinion? Something like the Vatican, Tibet, private collections you can postulate.
I cannot advocate for the study of a certain doctrine or tradition to the exclusion of others. It is more a case of finding material that ignites that inner fire in you, rather than seeking rarefied scripture with the cheat codes to apotheosis. To be sure, if you cannot find that common thread of truth in all sacred and esoteric works, then once the journey becomes hard, it will definitely stifle your progress. This is not to say there is no difference in value from one written work to another, and it is understandable why one can be moved to seek a perfect map for the territory. But this does not exist, and the reasons we have for these motives are incredibly subjective. Consider the concept of the Prisca Theologica. Everything you can find today points backward in time to an older truth or understanding. But because of the state of our age, will always be fragmented and seemingly incomplete. Contemplation is required to bridge those gaps. Through meditating on the ideas you consume, eventually you will begin to see what you are looking for in all aspects of not only study, but moments in your life. So to come back to your question, start with the archive that interests you the most and work from there outward. If nowhere in particular draws the inner gaze, start anywhere.
The hedge magic in this thread is really off the charts. Literally forced to reply to this shit, thus proving the limitations of my own will-working ability. 1. Everything is consciousness. 2. Your ego is the subjective manifestation of the ability of evolved animal brains to partition off a section of this continuum, create a loop essentially. 3. Your ego and all your cultural crap you project onto magic resides in this ephemeral loop. 4. When you try to do something like levitate a pencil for real, you are putting your tiny partition of consciousness against the entire consciousness of the universe, which will be impossible to overcome. 5. True magic works by these partition conscious loops coming into resonance with one another and acting directly one on the other, thus bypassing universal consciousness and universal law. 6. This means that all supernatural and magical effects are isolated to the subjective experience of the participants, hence their notorious inability to leave physical evidence. And before you say that ain't real magic, it's just psychological trickery. Do you think every consciousness partition out there is attached to an organic body?
After reading several reports and stories about how people that have tried hallucinogens often encounter and experience stuff only hardcore yogas usually do, I think it might be worth asking what drugs or psychedelics can increase magical abilities and with that amount. From my personal experience, I can say that the impact of mind over perceived objects is wacky. 3 nights ago, I had a dream where I woke up and felt certain to be in waking life. Then I tried to do magic and I couldn't, even if I believed like I used to in daily life, which usually works in dreams. If this ordinary reality and its plasticity relies only upon perception, then I think hallucinogens would be beneficial in breaking that barrier. Perhaps even shit like transfiguration would be possible in a state where you fully see reality as a dream you're able to influence. If this works, I'll finally be able to turn my cat into a plant.
Increase? None. Don't think about it like a supplement. It's more like a crude pipe bomb thrown at whatever stands between you and a spiritual and supernatural experience. Some people know how to build such better, no dosage better, can throw well, and it somewhat improves how they do than if they do without it. Some throw the thing, get it to bounce and fly right into their faces before exploding. Some make it explode and make a hole through, but they're poor at handling what's on the other side, the hole's wrong size. The impact on the mind is there, but whether it's positive is uncertain. It is true that at certain level the boundary between subjective and objective perceptions and even elements of reality kind of blurs, but it's hard to distinguish in which place it does. What experience holds spiritual significance and which only appears so through your subjective interpretation, but in reality is nothing but hallucination of mismanaged, drugged brain. That's why I personally, while recognizing some utility of such things, prefer going without. One's much more likely to waste time on dreams or even messing oneself up than reaching what a decent practitioner without such boosters would reach.
There are many reports on the web of people who take LSD and their computer or phone starts acting really weird. But the interesting part is that in several of those reports it is said that even third parties who were present but were not high saw the computers glitching. One guy even said there was a rule at his job that the computer lab guys should not trip on the job. This is the kind of phenomenon that should get seriously studied, but it's the kind of paranormal phenomenon, the powers that we don't want to officially acknowledge, so it's not going to make headlines anytime soon, and even if peer-reviewed evidence emerges, it won't be getting the spotlight. So normies will continue saying there's no evidence for it and that it's all just in your head because you are high. I see it as just another proof that the beyond is real and our universe is not merely material.
I have experienced this often. It's likely the electricity, the electromagnetism, and complex information being transmitted and received. Remember that as far as we know, biology runs on electricity too. It and magnetism, which electricity can produce, is an incredibly mysterious force. The computer itself as an engineered system isn't mysterious. It's created by humans, so we understand it from top to bottom, but it is the force that we are playing with and manipulating that's so strange, and I want people to remember this so you don't fall into delusion. But the device itself likely carries some type of animism in the experiential realm too. Something beyond just RAM, SSD, and HDD, I mean. There's so much I could go into, but a lot of it makes some strange intuition come over me which tells me not to. I'm going to trust that. But here is what I feel comfortable about sharing. Know that the spirits messing with and helping us seem to be able to use this technology somehow, and considering both us and the solid-state device is electric, there's a deeper parasitic, symbiotic connection going on than we are usually aware. The idea that the population is being brainwashed through screens isn't just about the information being transmitted, but the electricity itself affecting us on a deeper level than just the mind. I've experienced incredibly evil beings deeply connected with the personal computer while on psychedelics. I mean truly an alien feeling beyond satanic. I've also experienced good beings trying to teach me different things and to recognize them and the evil going on in this realm, coming and using the electromagnetism in the computer somehow. The glitches being mentioned are also real. The information transmitted from the computer is also a very synchronous thing.
Magic versus machine, how to sabotage AI developers. Hi all, looking for suggestions on mystical and magical means to sabotage an insidious AI developer. Preferably only sabotage his AI development without affecting the rest of his life, though collateral damage will be acceptable, as long as it doesn't affect myself or others besides him directly. My beef with this man is not particularly a personal matter, though that of course comes into play, but rather also a moral one, for what he works tirelessly to create will be the undoing of me, friends that I know, and also inevitably serves a cause that would act as his own undoing. I can only see him as an anti-human wretch acting against the interests of everyone, including himself. I have his face and probably not a full name to him. I do not have physical means of contact with him. Mundane negotiations are not an option, and I do not wish to risk the odds of him responding with increased efforts should he face mundane harassment. He needs to face the invisible force to demoralize him in pursuing this work. It is worth mentioning yet again that he is behaving against his own interest in what he is doing, so anything that only stops this venture of his and nothing else would be inherently good for him, meaning prayer is a potential option, as it is keeping him from committing evil unto himself. Suggestions on what magics, prayers, or whatever to use. I am generally unwilling to do anything that involves animal sacrifices, though.
Rule of magic not too many people understand. Your magic can never put a great strain on the universe. You can't derail AI with magic. You're better off using magic to better learn and understand AI. I think your fear comes from some religious anxiety associated with end times and all of that. Either way, AI is going to happen. We better cease fearing the inevitable and learn of it.
You misunderstood exactly what I'm focusing on here. This is with regards to a singular, just one man, AI developer, and this is essentially a battle in the war. I do not believe I can use magic to single-handedly win the war for us. I do believe that magic may be of great assistance in this particular battle. AI is a grotesque mockery, an insult to everything it seeks to replace, and its inferiority is evident. It only improves its ability to deceive midwits and idiots into allowing it to usurp others. I may not even be entirely sure that magic could altogether stop this man, but I only need to slow down his efforts so that I will have more time to prepare a plan to humiliate him directly through mundane means. I have already learned much of AI myself, primarily that it isn't as advanced as people puff it up to be. I also know that the problem is primarily a social and societal one. Either way though, his level of foolishness is disgusting, and it is a moral duty to obstruct, sabotage, and stop him in any way I can.
You believe AI is the brainchild of just one human. No. AI didn't just get thought up about and worked on last night. So again, your magic being used to try and derail AI will fail because the power it would require in response would put too great a strain on the universe. I understand you perfectly. I loathe when people disagree with someone and they claim the disagreement came about a way of misunderstanding. What you don't understand is magic, and furthermore the history of AI, conceptual thinking and development. I understand you. You don't understand magic or AI. Your magic will not work.
I believe you have to be either completely tunnel-visioned or deliberately trolling at this stage. I do not believe that stopping this one man will automatically end the march of AI. I do, however, make the obvious deduction that in stopping this one man, I am performing my duty in opposing it. If enough people en masse did this to enough AI developers, it would in fact affect the march of AI greatly. I am fully aware of my role as just a small part in the matter, but so is he, and that means I can affect him. If you actually read this rather than just skimming over every detail I write, then you should be able to come up with a better response next time.
I see you're offended, and my apologies, that was not the intention. But as I said, your magic will fail. But good luck nonetheless.
In the next part, the AI keeps switching how it pronounces gematria. I'm currently troubleshooting the issue.
Learn gematria. It is a way of overclocking your mind without the use of technology. The idea of gematria is that for every letter there is a number, and combining different numbers lead to different meanings. It is said we only use a small percentage of our brain. In my experience, learning gematria describes the construction of reality pertaining to the other final percent. Learning gematria lets you hack your brain without the use of technology. The more gematria you learn, the more you understand the mathematics of reality, at which point all knowledge and metasystems will become apparent to you. The speed at which you acquire knowledge through gematria will surpass AI. A computer can only accommodate a fixed quantity. The mind is infinite. Godspeed anon.
You won't see paranormal or magic unless you reject this mundane garbage world and you are willing to jump off a cliff. You know what I realized today when I went to godlike productions? Boomers on there are pompous and arrogant pieces of feces. There are a few that are genuine and seem real. But they are so programmed with that boomer programming. I'm a boomer, and the decades before 2000 were good, better than now, but I am so repulsed by the programming and the pompous and arrogant attitude. I come on 4chan Paranormal, and it seems a lot of bull is being flung around, but once in a while you get somebody who seems genuine and real, but also who isn't buying into the programming. What is refreshing about this place is you are younger here, and your programming isn't filling you with such certainty and pride as with the boomers on godlike productions. I certainly appreciate 1 or 3 people on 4chan Paranormal when they post, cause you can tell they don't have any baggage. I think key to paranormal and magic, like I said, is to reject this mundane world and be willing to jump off a cliff. I think also by not embracing any programming that the Matrix, for lack of better terminology, can't pin you down in scripting. That's why you might get interesting things. I'm not an expert by any means, but there are lots of traps in this simulated world. We are so programmed with shit that those normies don't see anything, cause they watch TV or work and keep busy. If they're not doing that, they're entertaining themselves. They never observe things. The Matrix wants you busy so you don't notice things. That's the truth.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.